Welcome everyone to today's Flex webinar. I'm your host, Marcus Merritt, and as you see with me today, we have CEO Chris Stein. Today, we're intentionally going to do something a little different. I normally focused in these webinars in talking about the how-to. How do I do one functionality? How does this work? Getting into these kind of things that way. And today, we wanted to give you guys a little bit more of an insight into kind of behind the scenes, bigger picture of why. And the just kind of more the big picture on that. So today, I have a list of questions that we feel like have been commonly asked over the recent weeks and months to ask Chris and to get his feedback on this transition from Flex4 to Flex5. At the end of this, we will have time for some live Q&A. I do want to keep that Q&A focused on the same kind of big picture. So if you have a question on why this feature is not in Flex5 yet, please send that to support. You can send that to training. We're happy to assist with that. But for this session, we want to focus on big picture things. We just want to focus on that major transition there. Okay, and so if you ask one of those, they may get answered by a support person, but they will not get filtered into me to ask to Chris. Okay. With that, let's go ahead and get started. So let me change this so we can see better. So welcome, Chris.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. So the first big key thing is just basically 2 weeks ago, customers started seeing that change of when they go to log into Flex. If they just put in that primary URL, they go to Flex4 instead of Flex5. Okay. Why this change? And I think more importantly on this, why now?
It changed from Flex4
to Flex5 in that primary login.
There are basically two points that I'd make as far as why we did the change and why we did it now. One of the main things is we did it because we want to be proactive. The beauty of the transition between Flex4 and Flex5 is, most importantly, you are not losing your data. The data remains the same. All your inventory remains the same, your scan history, all your quote history. We built this transition in a way that migrates, and it's actually looking at the same back-end data. And so, that's the reason why we could do this. This is a smooth transition instead of the process of these are two separate systems. We'll have to export all the old data into the new data. That would have been a really bad transition or a harder transition for our customers. So we built this transition so that we could do this. B, we are being proactive and preemptive and pushing Flex5 before the flash cutoff date. The reason for that is it's much easier to handle support and training on this before it becomes a necessity. And so we feel we've got a great stable product. We've got a great team that's working behind the scenes, both programming and quality assurance, that's putting together all the features and a stable platform. And with that, we wanted to make sure that we started pushing people onto this platform and getting used to it before they had that brick wall of Flash coming, that's coming in January.
Okay, great. So I feel like you sort of mentioned this, but I just want to confirm the customers do still have web access to Flex4 at the moment. Is that correct?
Yeah, this whole transition process, we've actually have a couple moving parts. So there is web access still available. Flash has not been turned off on the web browser. And so if you have access to the web and you have old URLs or bookmarks that had the old Flash appendage on it, it will automatically still go to the older Flash4 interface. If you simply type in your URL like customer.flexrentalsolutions.com, now that defaults to Flex5.
Okay. And one thing to note for customers, because this is what I've been using with helping customers recently, is if I do that initial one, at the bottom below the login, before you first log in, there is a link that will take you to that Flex4 as an additional tab. So you can also just do that to immediately get yourself 2 tabs, a Flex5 tab and a Flex4 tab. Okay.
Correct.
So that's the first part. But the other key, and it's more importantly, is down the road, is we know that end of life of Flash is coming early January 2021. So what is the plan for customers when Flash is finally gone?
Yeah, so Flex5 is going to be the primary login. We plan to have day-to-day functionality for the vast majority of our customers. Account managers, warehouse people will have that functionality moved completely over to Flex5. There will be some lingering features and functionality that we haven't moved over. The vast majority of that is system configuration and things like that. That is definitely limited to majority of system admins. And so what we put together is a app that basically embeds a browser and a Flash player that we have licensed from the official Flash licensee company that will allow people to access Flex4 indefinitely as long as we deem that app necessary. So once you log into Flex5, there is a link under, is it the help menu?
Yes, it's under the help menu.
That will allow you to download this Flex4 app for both Mac and Windows. And what this does is it basically puts that browser in a confined application. You type in your URL. So again, customer.flexrentalsolutions. If that's your web address, you just put in your customer name. It automatically has .flexrentalsolutions.com. Log in with your same username and password, and you have access to the Flex4 app indefinitely.
Great, great. And this Flex4 app works once you're in there, works the same way that what they're currently comfortable with right now, right?
99.9% of the features are the same. It's as if you're running a web browser inside an embedded app.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so with that, and you mentioned a little bit about most of the features that we're kind of expecting, but do you want to expand a little bit on that kind of feature list of the things that we believe we're currently expected to get by end of year before people would have to use this app for accessing Flex4?
Yeah, so we've spent the vast majority of our time on the basic user functionalities, calendar, inventory, contacts, financial documents such as quoting and invoicing. We've released equipment lists such as pull sheets and manifest. We are, I believe we just started to release the prep and return screens. We're adding more and more functionality into that. We've got many of the original or the primary system admin pages like users, security groups, things already for new users to get up and running. And then one of the other things that we're looking to add over the next month or two is crew list functionality. So that is being programmed as we speak also.
Great, great. So I think one other key question that I've seen people ask is, there are definitely improvements in this transition to Flex5. There's things that feel like new features and new functionality, yet other times they say, hey, well, can you add this for me? And they're told, well, we'll put it on a list, but not anytime soon. Can you give any explanation on why that difference is between some things being added and changed and some things being not able to currently be changed?
It is really interesting trying to prioritize everyone's needs. Every customer is a little bit unique. And there are some times when feature requests are very simple and it's like, oh man, I've always wanted that. We could do that with we in the software world call that level of effort. And so a lot of times we'll talk about a very specific feature. Oh, what's the level of effort to add that feature? One of my favorite new tweaks or features that we've wanted to add for a long time was the ability on inventory suggestions to be able to select 20 inventory suggested items and change their suggestion type. And so that's, to me, a really good example of level of effort on that was really low. Probably took about a day for a developer to put that functionality in there and some more time to QA it. QA always has to look at it. There's usually a tweak or two that has to go into it. So that level of effort on original development always slips just a little bit. But that was a low level of effort for a feature that a lot of people have asked for a long time.
Yep. I think one other key thing with that I always bring up to customers that's important to understand, and I think that is a great example. One of my favorite new features in Flex5 is that suggestions, but it's also in those suggestions aren't changing on how suggestion works. We've just changed in how you can edit and update those, which means that is only a UI access change. Whereas other things would have to change. If we suddenly said we want to add a new column of data that's stored on suggestions, that might be a great idea, but the level of effort for that is going to be much higher because it takes a back-end change, and that's something that's going to be harder to do until farther in the process. Is that?
Yeah, and let me give you another example that adds to complexity is what happens to the data in Flex4. So if there is stuff that we would literally have to add in both 4 and 5, or we break things, that's when it gets a little bit more complicated and that level of effort starts to exponentially grow. So there may be some stuff that we say, hey, we're not going to add that feature until we are in the throwaway phase of Flex4 and stuff like that. And there might be new features that we literally just add directly into 5 that won't exist in 4 that we aren't going to add.
Yep. No, I think that's a really good comment. Like you say, it's that thing of we'd have to change it on the back end, which would either make it not work in 4 but work in 5, or potentially break 4. And that's, you know, even worse if it's completely broken. So yep, that's that key thing I want to bring up, is that if it's a UI thing about just your interface, we can make the interface better without damaging Flex4. But if it's about changing the back end, we have to wait till we finish this transition process so that we don't risk breaking Flex4 for customers. Okay.
Yeah, the interface or the user experience, and those are kind of synonymous.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. So that's some of the key things. I did want, you know, a very, very common question that people still always kind of ask is, you know, we've been hearing about this transition for a long time. Why has the overall process been this long? So I'm just curious if you want to give a little bit of insight into the whole of the process from when we first started talking about, okay, we need to make this change. We know that Flash is going to go away. We've got to make an update to, you know, where we are now and why that process has been, you know, that amount of time.
Yeah, we've been fairly methodical on stuff. Some of our estimates have been lower, but there are times when you are, I use the term Lewis and Clarking things. In America history, there was a time when we only knew what was on the East Coast and we didn't know what was on the West Coast. And it took some people to go out and really explore and to get lost and to be found on the other side before they figured out what the end, you know, what the West Coast really was and where it was, and then get their way back. The beauty that I love to talk about now is our days of Lewis and Clarking in Flex5 are fairly much done. There's not an area that we haven't really got in that we still have to go out and do a lot of research on. We're to the point where it's develop, and right within the confines that we've already put together. We started out with Flex5 mobile app to build a very simple system that proved the concept that we could build this without having to build a whole new system that could work with the data. That was somewhat of a Flex5 backend architecture proof of concept. Once we made sure that was working as a concept, then we started working on the Flex5 desktop using the same backend, but a new user interface built on HTML5. So everything has been a work in progress, and we always try to reduce the level of risk on our customers. And if we would have started just on Flex5 desktop of this is what we're going to build for the future, and we haven't even put together the proof of concept of the back-end architecture and reading data in both sides, all of a sudden trying to release that is a really large risk that a lot of moving parts can go wrong really quickly. Looking back on these past couple of years, this transition from a customer point of view has been, whenever we've made small incremental steps, have been non-trivial, but we've had no detrimental setbacks from a customer point of view. And I give my hats off to the development team, to the QA team, to the product team. Everyone has really stepped up, and this transition, as long as it's taken, there hasn't been disasters where the product has fallen in and collapsed. It's been improvement after improvement after improvement. So as far as execution, I'm incredibly happy how stable and how low risk each step has been. Is that a good answer?
No, I think that's great. I think that's a really good key thing. I definitely think of that as I, came from being a customer to joining Flex. I think that's always one of that biggest things of, like you say, it's making that smooth transition. So there's never that point of having to completely kick out of one data, go into another. It doesn't line up right. It doesn't feel like you said. You can continue working, and it's just that smooth transition. It has made the process take longer, but it had made it so people don't have to waste a bunch of time re-entering data, reorganizing data, changing things that way. And then, like we say, once we get that done, then we can go in and add additional features and functionality to suddenly go, oh, all of your suggestions are still here, but maybe we've added a new column. And so you have to go set those columns, but you didn't have to go re-enter everything from scratch. So no, I think that's a really good answer. And I think that's really going to be helpful to the customers. So with that, that's the key questions that I had. And if you have other specific questions, use that send feedback thing, email support@flexrentalsolutions.com, email training@flexrentalsolutions.com. Again, we're still offering a lot of additional training, some comp. If we want to do a lot of extra training, there is still some cost, but, reach out to training. We can help answer your questions, help you get to know things, what to do better. Reach out to support. We're always there for you to help you guys out and continue with that. So with that, thanks very much, and everyone have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Stay safe. Bye-bye.